Hello, happy new year. Welcome to 2025. Of course, our Christmas decorations stay up until Sunday evening in the best tradition of these things. And in truth, there's a lot from 2024 to pay attention to and to celebrate, isn't there? Despite all of the well-publicised challenges that public services and health services face, there's so much that I think we've managed to achieve as an organisation. I dropped an email out to everybody who works in the Trust earlier in the week that highlighted some of those things, and there's a few details on the screen as I'm talking. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through all of them because I want to focus forward into 2025, but I think sometimes, perhaps particularly in the management and leadership space, we move on to the next thing and we don't take a moment to reflect on what has been achieved. And of course, with something like the decorations contest, also a moment just to have fun, to work across a team and to reflect on what colleagues bring to one another in the work that we do. Dry January is now upon us. Myself and Carleen Holden have taken part in the public health-led campaign across Doncaster, but I'm sure there'll be people across the organisation both making New Year's resolutions and having a think about health and well-being in the year ahead. So do try it if you can and if you want to, and it doesn't have to be in January, does it? It starts when it needs to start, or you want it to start for yourself. I thought one of the things I might do here is highlight three things that I think over coming months are going to be particularly important in our organisation. I might squeeze in a fourth. So first of all, as part of Promise 25, we'll be moving this year to paying the real living wage. What that means in practice is that quite a few folk in our organisation who are currently paid the least will see their pay rise disproportionately. That is part of our effort to tackle what might be called by some people poverty, pay and exclusion. It also, as we implement it, will help us further with our hitherto pretty successful work to tackle the gender pay gap in our organisation. We've got it down from about 11% to just above 4%. I think this will make a further difference to that important measure. As part of our real living wage work, we'll also be looking at our suppliers to make sure those people we buy from are also committed to this standard, and wherever possible that those people we buy from are local. So my thanks in advance to colleagues in procurement and elsewhere who've put the work into making progress with that. So from one three-letter acronym, RLW, to another, PSW, peer support workers. Now you remember at Promise 1, the peer support workers and the bringing of lived experience into every part of every service clinically in our organisation is the very first of our commitments within the strategy, and it stretches out until 2027 because it's big and it's hard to do. We made a cracking start last year with the investments that we made. We had our Tony, our peer support award winner, back in November. And again, as we think about the investment fund for 2025-2026, we'll be making a presumption of further investment in PSW. So this is a critical part of our organisation. It's crucial that we're able to bring lived experience into our organisation, offer something slightly different to our patients. There are examples all over the Trust of this working well, but it's an area where we want to really stand out and go further and where possible faster. So if you haven't got your investment fund bid in yet before January 16th and the deadline, I guess I'm marking your card that peer support workers are going to be a big part of what we invest in going into the coming year. And then finally, I wanted to highlight the 4-week wait. Now, the 4-week wait seems extraordinary unless you work in our children's eating disorder service, which currently already delivers it, but we're well on our way to delivering it across our children and adolescent mental health services in the organisation. In fact, you'll remember that from April 2026, we're committed to delivering it in all of our services, and even the very, very long waits we see for neurodiversity, we expect during 2026 to bring those within that 4-week window. Why is that so important? Well, obviously there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress for patients as they wait. There's sometimes, if you like, a golden moment, an opportunity with motivation for wanting to engage with services. But there's also inside our organisation an enormous amount of risk, an enormous amount of work that comes from trying to calibrate the waits of our patients as they wait perhaps weeks, sometimes months, and sadly in some cases years. So there's a real time save, if you like, in every sense, in getting to that promised 4-week wait. Gratitude to those who are working on this, but it's certainly going to heat up as we go through the next little while, even with the cold snap, as we try and make sure we've got a really clear balance between where we need to grow services and where we can become more productive by, for example, concentrating more of our clinical time on clinical activity and taking some of the admin burden away from frontline teams that are working so hard already. So those are three things: Promise 14, 1 and 25, that I wanted to draw to your attention as we go into the new year. A bit closer to home, in early January, we'll kick off our Your Hearts and Minds Community Grants Programme. That's a really exciting thing. It's our charity investing up to £1,000 in 77 local projects in the voluntary and community sector, privileging those that are done jointly with Ardèche employees. So if you know of a small community project that would really benefit from that, look out for publicity in Trust Comms as we go through the next few days, or get in touch with Joe McDonough or Jenny Bainham as we roll that programme out through January. Now, next week, it won't be me doing this vlog. It'll be another of our voices of Ardèche. I won't tell you who, because that will spoil the surprise. But a bit of a thank you to the faces and voices you see on the screen as I'm talking for their contribution last year in providing their voice, telling you something about their perspective as leaders. It's really important as we go through 25 that we build that community of leadership practice with our investment in first-line leadership training, our investment in our clinical leaders and our clinical professionals leadership development, as well as the Top Leaders Cadre programme, sometimes known as the LDO. So there's a lot to look forward to in the year ahead. Thank you ever so much for the work that you do. It's a real privilege to be your Chief Executive, and I look forward to the work we're going to do together in the coming 12 months.